Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Muskegon Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, April 16th, 2026. Our first order of business is to elect a chair for the meeting today, as our chair and vice chair are not here. So I'll entertain nomination for a chair for this meeting only.
I motion to nominate you to chair the remainder of this meeting.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a support?
I support nominating you as the chair of this evening.
All right, so we have a motion and support to nominate Brian Mazade to be the chair for this meeting only. Any discussion or any other nominations? Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, so the first order of business is the roll call.
Planning Commissioner Willette Leroy. Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
De La Garza.
Present.
Seifert.
Here.
Gowron.
Here.
Keener. Mazade.
Here.
Blake. And Simmons.
Okay. So the first item of business after the roll call is the approval of minutes of the meeting of the regular meeting on March 12th, 2026.
I move to approve those minutes as presented.
Support. I have a motion and support to approve those minutes of the meeting of March 12th, 2026. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Before we enter the public hearing, I just want to take a minute to indicate how we'll handle these meetings or these public hearings. First of all, we'll have an introduction of the subject by the city staff. After that, the petitioner, if there is one, will have an opportunity to make any comments. We'll have questions from the Planning Commission to the staff and to the petitioner, if applicable. And then after that, we'll open the subject to the audience, both here and virtually, I guess. And then after that opportunity is made for all public comment, then we'll close the public hearing and take action on the matter. So with that, let's move into the first public hearing, Mike.
Great.
This is case 2026-10. It's a request to amend the Harbor 31 Plan Unit Development for a new residential development at 170 Viridian Drive and to amend the waterfront access pass within Harbor 31 by Wolverine Building Group. So this development is located in Harbor 31. If you've seen the lot, you can see that much of it is considered undevelopable because there is environmental easement on it by the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy. So development has to occur outside of those boundaries. Their initial plans were for some townhomes, but they were not going to be able to make that with the layout of the easement. So they are proposing 4 separate apartments that will have 12 units each. So that's a total of 48 units. They're proposing 67 off-street parking spaces. They had also proposed 5 parking spaces in the terrace. Staff has asked them to eliminate, if we could, can we pull this up at the same time? Or, I'll get into that. We'll talk about some of the amendments to the plan after this. So these types of buildings are allowed within the underlying zoning district. However, the wetlands prevents the parking placement and the required need to amend. So that requires the need to amend the PUD. Also, something to note is a portion of the Grand Valley State University parking lot to the west of the development actually encroaches onto the meadows. So this will have to be removed prior to construction. You can see on page 2 of the site plan that depicts the east parking lot, and page 3 depicts about what that potential parking lot could look like. That's not what they're proposing now, but that the owner, GVSU, of that parking lot will need to amend their parking lot in the future. A stormwater management permit application will need to be submitted to the engineering department, and the original stormwater management permit for the overall site may need to be modified, so the applicant has been aware of that and will apply soon. The landscaping plan does lack canopy trees. Canopy trees should be added to each parking lot and the vacant areas outside of the environmental easement. The plans for paved terraces for parking would remove several of the trees. If the design's approved, additional street trees should be planted throughout the development. Make a note of that. And we sent notices into everyone within 300 feet of the property. You have a couple of messages from Kevin Murphy, who is an owner of one of the condos inside Harbor 31 and the Vita Nova condos. He also plans on calling in, so you can review those notes and expect him to call in to make comments when we go to the phone. So staff is recommending approval of the site plan with the condition. One of the conditions of the original PUD that there was going to be 2 public easements to the boardwalk. Those have not yet been installed, so what staff is asking is that before, one of the conditions on this approval could be that certificate of occupancies may not be issued until that the western path, there's 2 paths, the eastern and the western, until the western path is installed and is usable. And also to put another sign on next to the path that would indicate that this is a public access to the boardwalk. There's one at the beginning of the development when you come into Terrace, but once you get into the development, it's a little confusing as to where that access point should be. A couple other things that we've discussed that we would like to put conditions on the approval. Obviously the stormwater management plan, the public access trail and signage, the street trees, that any street tree is removed shall be replanted somewhere else within the development, and staff can work with them on placements. And we've also been working with the Public Works Department on an issue. Can we plug this in? Get those pictures up. Thank you. There is an entrance on the north side of the development. This may take a moment. Yeah, PC meeting. Oh, that can take. Thank you. So this is what the current entrance. You can see. Where are we? Oh, here we go. So right here is an entrance to the northern portion of the property. This is the property down here. As you can see, it gets a little wonky right here, where it curves over here this way. It also curves over here this way. Our engineers have come up with a proposed solution, which the developer can speak on. We talked a little bit before the meeting. Something like this was just a quick sketch she came up with to maybe show how this could function better. They have agreed to take out the parking spaces in this area because this would be rather dangerous for ingress and egress with 90-degree parking right here. So since they are removing that, we could shift this road down to the south and then bring these curbs down here as well. This parking lot owned by Parmenter would actually gain several parking spaces. And that is it for the staff report. I'll bring up the plans. So right here is where the existing parking lot at the GVSU building is, which is encroaches. And this is a potential redrawing of what that parking lot could look like.
Is that it, Mike?
That's it.
All right, any questions for us,
Just
Mr.
a clarifying
Mayor?
question. I heard you said they agreed to remove those 7 parking spots, and I noticed DPW did reference having an issue with that, as mentioned in the packet. But there's one map that shows that they're there. There's another map that shows they're not there, and so I don't see any language in like a condition saying those being removed. So I just wanted to confirm, like the PUD amendment that's proposed and being brought forward is not inclusive of those 7 parking spots.
Correct. So that should be another condition that those are removed.
Okay. And
You're talking about the GVSU?
no,
parks?
these right
These
here.
ones right
Oh,
here.
The
okay,
one that
yep,
would need to
okay.
be removed to accommodate the
Okay.
straightening of that road.
Yep.
And have we heard from? the
They,
applicant?
they did actually remove those. I had a new plan. I did not upload that yet, but it
Okay.
just shows those removed.
Okay,
So, yeah.
gotcha.
And the applicant is here.
Okay.
But it still should be a condition, though,
It
right?
still should be a condition, yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering if you have what have we heard from the applicant with regard about straightening the road? Are they amenable to that? They like that? They don't like it?
There's some issues since there's different ownership there, and Mr. Henriksen and I talked briefly before the meeting. I think he'll be able to talk about some of his concerns. If we can't come to an agreement today on exactly what that looks like, you could always we could either table it or we could approve with the condition that they sit down with staff and we come to an agreement on how exactly that could function better.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I have more, but not right now. I'll
Not
wait
right-
till.
okay. All right. So, Mr. Hendrickson, would you like to address us?
Good afternoon, everybody. Dan Henriksen. I'm an architect, also part owner in the development. Been involved in this project since 2007. I was a young man when I started this, so we're ready to get things rocking and rolling. Anna Pelhank is with me. She's a civil engineer with Paradigm Design. So if you have technical questions, she's a lot smarter than I am, so she can answer those. Thank you for allowing us to be here. So nice job, Mike. So working on this project a long time, we had several different concepts before this one. And this, because of the wetland that migrated onto the site, basically 2017, 2016, it was not a wetland. So we had high water tables, Teledyne Continental Motors didn't finish their job, land was left low, water crept in, DEQ got involved, which is now Eagle, and lo and behold, we have solved that. We got a grant from the state. We put a bunch of our own money into it. So we created all the wetlands that you see out there today. Spent about $3.2 million doing that, which took out about 7 acres of developable land. So this was really tricky to try to figure out how we can use this property here in lot, we call now Lot D, next to Grand Valley. So came up with this concept of these relatively narrow apartment projects, 3-story garden-style apartment buildings. 4 of them will fit on the site nicely with parking between the buildings. It's the only way we could get this really to fit. What's really interesting is all these units will then face the wetland, which is then makes the wetland become an asset to the development. So putting parking between the buildings, the point is that I think it's a 40-foot setback from the road is where parking needs to be. That's why we're here today primarily. The buildings do sit up against the road, which is good. That's form-based code, likes your buildings close to the road, so that's the good part. So it's really the parking itself. And we've talked about either putting landscaping there or something to buffer that hard edge of the parking. We do have some, I think it's 8 off-street parking spaces we'd like to put off from Viridian Drive. So that gives us enough parking ratio to have basically 1 parking spot per bedroom in the development with about another 10 to 12 guest parking spaces, which is, I would consider probably a bare minimum. And there is ability to have some parking on Viridian Drive. I think, Mike, maybe we can talk about that at some point. But because the road gets a little wide, kind of at the throat where we talked about this entry drive back to Viridian Drive, Viridian project, so we can do some off-street parking there if we needed to. Do you want me to address the issues that, like the road issue now, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah, I think that would probably be good.
Sounds like that's the biggest issue. So I'm not sure, I don't really have a cursor or pen, but the original intent, if everybody knows, I know Brian remembers this, Vita Nova was a development that Doug Hardredd of Spring Lake did, and so he built that fourplex that's there now, and he had plans to build the rest of it out. That project never really took off, so the fourplex was built, and that was it. There was a road that came in, and you can kind of see it where it says hydrant. That road came in. That was meant to be the drive that goes back to this parcel, what they call Parcel A. Parcel A, I bought from Mactel Bank back in 2012. Ended up being no ability to get to parcel A. So we had to take this road, and because I was unable to negotiate or deal with the fourplex, they were not allowing me to use that drive as originally planned. I had to go around that. So we had to dip this road into Lot D to get to that property. So luckily I own Lot D. I was able to do that for $0, although we had to add the cost of that. So the only way we could get to the Viridian Drive was to actually sweep the road back, which caused that geometry issue we're talking about today. Move it north, I don't know how we do that. I guess we can move the road, which is down south. But I'm not sure how that works. I know, Mike, you have a sketch. You could maybe pull up that sketch of what that would look like, and I've got an alternate solution for that. So this would involve Departmental Tools parcel, this would involve the fourplex partial, this would involve Lot D, and this would involve Viridian Shores development. So 4 owners would have to get involved in this to make this happen. What I'm proposing is we leave the curb cut off Viridian Drive just as it is and do a much better and graceful swoop down to the left, so it looks as if the driveway then kind of takes a quick left rather than a hard left. I think that'll solve the problem. Now, I realize the fourplex drive is a little awkward, but I think it's 4 units. I don't think it's a big problem, but if we make this road look a little more intentional and a little more geometric, I think that will solve that problem. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to take, so I don't know if you can mark up, Mike, where we talked about, just soften that edge.
Right here.
No, down, right.
Yep, come on.
Soften your edge like this. Kind of come up there and just do it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. So the other side of the road, right there, yeah, take that and run that up to existing curb, but make it a much more graceful. Start about where you see the white line ending and then fill that in with asphalt. That'll make this road appear as if it's a road with a little curve to it, which is all fine, right? Curves and roads are pretty typical. Then you're not dealing with much of an issue with Palmetto Tool. You're really not getting into that. It's just really the geometry of the entry drive into that from the fourplex, which I think is still going to work. It cleans that up, makes it a much more graceful thing, and I'm absolutely willing to do that as part of this project.
Mr. Henderson, would you connect to that existing curb to the west then, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So take that and just make that a nice S curve and soften that up. By getting rid of these parking spaces, it allows us to do that. And again, then the road comes in, takes just a little slight dip to the left and runs around. I think we could stripe it possibly to make that more clear, and I'd be willing to work with staff to come up with the geometries, how we do that. Moving it completely this way, it's just going to be probably 4 parties involved, and I know how it's gone so far. So it feels like it's a difficult ask. This does the exact same thing.
Mike, do you have an opinion on that or a thought?
I would probably defer to Dan Vanderheide, our engineer in the back. I'm not sure if Dan
Can I
caught
get
that, or
I mean, we're kind of operating on the fly, and I don't know that that's a best.
it may not be, but Dan may be amenable to a condition where we sit down.
Before we do that, Mayor.
While
has
he
a-
reflects on that and decides if he wants to weigh in at this point, can I just get to get some clarity? Because you mentioned pulling it down could end up entailing 4 different property owners. Can you help me understand? Because like if we did just straighten it out, as depicted right now, just straighten it out, you'd be giving up, and you already are committed to giving up those 7 parking spots where you see the little green area, green brownish area. So that'd be foregone and be now part of the proposed road according to this schematic. How does that involve these other, aside from Parmenter, because Parmenter would be end up adding potentially space to their parking lot, which you could end up potentially working on an agreement saying, hey, no, there's added parking spots, are reserved for my tenants or our tenants or future tenants. So I'm just wondering what other complications or how is that otherwise problematic, and how would that help me better understand the concerns with potentially having 4 different property owners with straightening out that road, and what other concerns or problems do you foresee going that route? And I understand, I appreciate you saying the sloping, is an improvement from what's there now. So I'm not discounting that, but if you could please help me understand the concerns.
I think, okay, yeah, surely you can move that down. I mean, that's, you end up with a curb cut into a city-owned road, which is fine, we can work through that. Sidewalks, you need to, there seems to be a lot that you have to do. If we just simply make the road a slight curve, I think it accomplishes exactly the same thing at far less expense, for one. I know we don't necessarily need to talk about expense, but that is true. Project needs to be feasible for less expense, and I think it does the same thing, if not, maybe a little better solution with a little curve. So I've never really liked that little blip in there, and I'm not exactly sure why that we actually created that the way we did anyway. So I have no problem doing it this way. I just think it's just the amount of people that have to say yes to this increases to 4 or 5, and then that just becomes more and more difficult. We're going to try to move quickly with this, and I could see that being the thing that's going to take the most amount of time, is getting everybody to agree to agree.
So I want to understand too. I guess I understand what the mayor's saying, but if, Mike, we use the plan that you're suggesting, one property owner gets some additional spaces, but that is a curb along there, right? So they would lose access to that access road, right?
No,
From that side,
if you look at the cursor, are you talking about this line right here?
right?
I believe that would remain open actually.
Oh, that's not a curb.
No, that's meant to be.
Okay, that's just
it was kind of drawn on the fly.
okay. All right. So that
I
does
believe
does
that's the
change.
intention, right?
Yeah, there'd be a connection there at that.
Okay.
Either way, whether we leave the road right where it is right now, and then we make the turn that we're talking about, or we do this, it's still open to Palmetto's lot.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Hendrickson? I guess in addition to this issue.
Regarding Grand Valley, I've been talking to them over the years. We've known this is coming for the last 2 or 3 years. So I've talked to Karen Engel. I know they bought the building, this December, so perfect timing. And she understands this. It took them by a little bit by surprise, trying to figure out who's going to pay for it, obviously. So that's probably the biggest hurdle. They understand the need to do this. They actually like the idea of putting the parking closer to the building because that grass area is kind of awkward. So I think we lost about 5 spaces by doing this. So we've had this communication, we're talking, so we just need to get through that. At the end of the day, we can build this project from basically 1 through 3, and so it's really only affects a little parking and 1 building. We can build the other 3 buildings without an agreement in place, so to speak.
Can you talk about the one issue that Mike brought up, and it's an issue that has been brought to our attention by public member, is the access to the Borak. Can you talk about that?
Sure can. Can we pull up a drawing? Can we pull up is there an overall site plan? I don't remember what you have in the pack. So right now, the drive entry on Terrace comes into the circle, right? So there is a sidewalk right now between Palmetto O'Toole and our lot I that goes about 3/4 of the way to the boardwalk and stops. And so I want to say it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk. Our proposal is to make that a 10-foot wide sidewalk with a sort of a gathering area at the end. We'd have to ramp up from the very end of it up to the boardwalk. I think it's about 20 foot of ramp. To make that look intentional, be right on the center line of the drive coming in, and that would be the main public access. We'd sign that, we'd put a sign out there saying, so I think there's a sign right now at the entry of Harbor 31, but from there, there's no signage. And that's been one of the beefs of some of the people that are associated with the association, is that there's not good signage, and I agree. We can put a sign there, make sure that that's public access number 1. There's also,
that's in the center of the drawing? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
make that 10-foot wide, make it a little grander, a little more intentional. And then the other one would go through the development that's on I and N. Now, this is an old, that's not it. So that's the new one that's an old site.
Yeah, we had just used the other one for discussion, so I hadn't presented it. But I did want to mention to the board that this eastern path, it's not going to be able to go in as this. If you've been down there, you can see that there's also designated wetlands all through here. So they are working on a new proposal for a path. We've seen it, it's pretty good. But they want to work with their potential developer that they're working on for this side of the development and see how that shapes up before they actually present the path. We've seen some mock-ups of it, and it seems like it would work very well. It would be very identifiable, especially with extra signage.
How important is that issue relative to the PUD amendment that's before us today?
This, what we would like to do is just leave it the same for this eastern development and have them come back and amend it when they're ready and a little bit
Okay.
further for that one.
That's
The one we want to address is this center one.
that's why I asked that.
We're committed to putting the center one in as part of this as part of the Meadows project. We're comfortable as a developer putting it. The other one, we just don't know what the geometry and what that's gonna look like yet. So I hate to hold up this project. That could take a year. We don't know, so we don't have the luxury of a year. So we can definitely put this one in. I've already talked to Chris Kelly and his group. They're more than happy to give us a 5-foot easement onto their property. There already is a little bit of one there right now, so I've got that agreement with them. And so
Who's that with?
Chris Kelly,
Oh.
Palmetto Tool.
Okay.
So he's willing to do that.
Okay.
We'll build that as part of this project.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about that issue? Okay. Is there any other questions for Mr. Hendrickson? We good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a time for the public hearing. If there's anyone in the live audience that would like to address this issue, please come forward and state your name for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes to address this issue. Anybody? Okay. If not, we'll go to the viewing audience, and the phone number to call is 231-724-6721, correct?
Yes.
And you'll have 3 minutes to address the planning commission. We know somebody is trying to go in to try to call in.
While we wait for the call, I would just like to mention that I did go down to the development with the engineering department, and we looked at on-street parking. It's not. It's coming in. Oh, I'll finish that.
So, okay, so caller, are you there?
Oh, looks like we got another.
I am.
Okay,
Hey guys, this is Leah Willett Leroy. I understand what we're doing here. So apologies that I could not make the meeting today, but I did have some public comment on this item specifically. Firstly, improved and clear access to the boardwalk is very important to the community. So we need to take the opportunity, I believe, to address anything that we can during this process. And I also absolutely appreciate that we consider the wetland an amenity, however it came to be. I did want to make a couple suggestions. One, to request whether the developer has had an opportunity with Grand Valley to consider more of a parking lot swap scenario to make things a little smoother there, and whether there's any opportunity to consider the parking lots on the west side differently. So that would be one question. The next would be whether the dumpsters could be moved farther away from the wetlands. You'll see 2 dumpsters sort of the center of the development, and each are placed close to the wildlife fence. Being around a lot of dumpsters and cleanups, you'll find that things tend to migrate in the vicinity, and they're likely to end up in those lowland areas. So seeing if there's a way to possibly move that to maybe the northwest corner. And then also any opportunity in the landscape plan to have evergreen bushes or trees is always much appreciated. I just wanted to make those suggestions and appreciate. Otherwise, I have no other input. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else?
There's a couple people trying to get in.
Okay. Can you reset our timer? Thank you. So will they just come on?
They're not calling, but if we just give them
Yeah,
a half a minute here,
absolutely.
otherwise we might be able to try to call them.
Well, we want to make sure we make every accommodation because we know somebody's
Here we go.
wanting to call.
You're on with the city of Muskegon.
Hi,
Hello, this is Kevin.
could you state your name for the record, please? And then you have 3 minutes to make comment about this subject matter?
Sure, this is Kevin Murphy, 142 Meridian Drive, Muskegon, Michigan. I am the president of Lakefront Condo Associates, also referred by Dan as the Fourplex. I want to be clear from the beginning that LFCA is in favor of growth and development within the Harbor 31 property. LFCA sits within Harbor 31 PUD and has representation within the Harbor 31 HOA. We have consistently made an effort to be cooperative and supportive partners. However, over the past 5 years, there has been a lack of consistent communication, follow-through, and mutual consideration, which has made the relationship challenging. We first addressed the public access signage and enforcement issue, which has been at least a 6-year issue. My original comments were for the public access signage and enforcement, which is directly tied to this PUD amendment. Currently, there is one public waterfront access sign, but no wayfaring, no posted rules, no defined access routes. This becomes very difficult for the folks that live in the area, that we live there 24/7, 365. There is no way to monitor or just enjoy ourselves on weekends sometimes. The 5 unofficial access points have been given to Harbor 31 and the city. These 5 unofficial access points are used by the public, and we have to remember that there needs to be a balance between private ownership and the public, which I truly respect. While the boardwalk abuts the private property, it is categorized as a common element, similar to a public sidewalk. I can tell you, though, the public sidewalk, that there are people that sit there 12 hours a day fishing, which is up to them, but people usually walk past the sidewalk. With that said, there is a shared responsibility between Harbor 31 and the city that needs to actively be involved to ensure clear access points, posted rules, and enforceability standards. With the addition of the 48 new units, there will be an increased traffic and foot traffic accessing the boardwalk. Without defined access, that traffic will continue to go across private property. Harbor 31 has been required to install this public access since 2020 in their 3rd PUD amendment. Now they're working on their 7th PUD amendment. These obligations should be addressed as part of the process and not deferred.
Mr. Murphy, I need to ask you to wrap up your comments now.
Oh, sure. So let's be clear. The LFCA supports development, but it must be paired with planning, accountability, and implementation. With summer approaching and the public use already occurring, we are reflecting that the rules and regulations, signage, and wayfarer be installed within 60 days, and the design public access path to the boardwalk within 120 days, and a parking and circulation study prior to final approval. These are not new requirements. They are existing obligations that need to be implemented. As density increases, responsibility and management access also increases. Our goal is to be supportive while preserving quality of life, safe access, and clear expectations to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nobody's been trying during that call.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
A motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right. Is
One
there
other-
anything else you want?
Yeah, one other thing I'd like to mention is an initial comment of Mr. Murphy's was the parking. There are about 1.5 space, I think 1.6 spaces per unit, which is pretty good. Kind of what we encourage in a downtown walkable area. Now, what we wanted to confirm is that there actually is street parking available for overflow parking, because if there's not, then it's really hard to have like a 1-for-1 parking ratio. But it should work here because working with the Public Works Department, they determined that eventually we can sign for street parking on one side of the street on Viridian, and they would like that on the south side of the street. And if we went out and measured it, so there are approximately 61 on-street parking spaces through all of Viridian, the east side and the west side of the traffic circle. And that does include taking out proposed curb cuts that are going in for the hotel.
You're talking about 1.6 without street parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So then there's an
Yeah.
additional 61 just on Viridian. So there's a lot of parking in the areas.
Okay. And, I don't wanna, did you want Mr. Vanderhyde to address
Piggyback
this?
on this right quick before we go to.
You wanna talk about what?
I just want
Parking?
to, yeah,
Sure.
piggyback on this before we go to
Sure.
back to the other topic and bring in Director Vanderhyde. So you just mentioned something about impact with regard to the curb cut for the hotel. What was that?
We didn't add on-street parking spaces there. We calculated that's going to be taken out. So
Okay.
we-
Okay, you were taking that into account the future. Okay, got it. And so then the additional on-street that you prefer being on the south side, does that include their proposed terrace parking on the north side? That would still
No,
be
that,
included, or
that would be
removed?
extra. That would be extra.
That'd still be included though, or like you're
In
not
their
you're not saying
67.
we'll have these additional on the south side on street, but we don't want, because I know there was some concerns or reservations about the on terrace parking on the north side. So is that still
yes,
included?
yeah.
And
We
what you're
asked,
bringing forward?
we let them know, we weren't really comfortable with the 8 parking spaces to the north, but that if they could remove those, then the curb cut on the terrace could be fine.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clarification. Thank you.
So in that small area, there would be parking on both sides of the street.
Right. I'm not sure how you wanna handle this, if Mr. Vanderhyde if he wants to talk about the change of the roadway and, or how you wanna deal with this. My preference is that I guess my preference usually is that we are able to address the issues that come before us at the time and any nuances that we might have, so we can have the petitioner walk away with a decision, one way or the other. So, if we can work through this issue relative to the parking and curb cuts, I'd like to do that. But I also know that sometimes, there's too many balls in the air, so.
Yes.
So what's your preference?
My preference, I guess, would be just to discuss it a little more with the Public Works Director. And, I think it may be hard to come out with a decision today, but I think, if we talk it over, maybe we can feel comfortable enough to where we know we're going to come to an agreement afterwards, and staff could approve that.
Mr. Vanderhyde, are you prepared to talk about this issue with us today?
Good afternoon,
Yeah.
Commissioners. Dan Vanderhyde, Director of Public Works for the city. I certainly don't mean to be an obstacle in this process. I just think that this development has occurred in many phases and over much time, and that has, through no one's fault, resulted in a complex and unique arrangement for access in this part of the world. And this seems to be the last, or nearly the last, in this part of the development. And so it seems to me that this is our time to make sure that we set our residents and the folks who are going to visit this part of the world up for success for the long term. And I am not opposed in principle to the suggestion that was made earlier, shifting the road over a period of time instead of just this little cutover that we have right now. I think if that happens, we have to acknowledge that still involves probably working with at least one, if not two, other property owners. And I'd want it to happen in a way that makes solves the real problem or makes the situation safe. I don't think I can show on the screen, but in the area that I highlighted green, kind of in the center of this map, if you go just beyond that, sort of a peninsula-shaped piece of turf, and in that area there is both a fire hydrant and a fence. And so right now, in the dark, what we have is the public headed directly at a black fence and a fire hydrant with no signage and no indication that they might be about to run into it. So that's my main concern. Obviously, aesthetics is not really my thing, that's yours. But I do think that whatever we end up with, I would encourage the commission to come up with, whether it's here tonight or in the future, as, you know, discussions between my office and the developer, a solution that everyone can live with and that makes a safe passage through this area, you know, with a minimum of fuss.
Mr. Van Hyde, when you talk about some of your concerns, are you talking about with the sketch that we have in front of us, or are you talking about the proposal from Mr. Hendrickson?
Well, this proposal makes sense to me. I understand his hesitation of having to approach multiple property owners. He did open that door a little bit by showing, you know, improvements on the Grand Valley site that are off-site. But if he's unable to reach an agreement with one or both of the property owners on the north side, I don't think the solution is unworkable. It just needs to contain some additional features that make sure, you know, folks are going to be safe.
Do you have any opinion about Mr. Hendrickson's suggestion about, you know, smoothing that angle of that curve?
I think that's fine in concept. I think he may still need to work with at least Parmenter, and I would still like to probably require him to work with the fourplex in order to at least put some signage on their property that indicates people need to move over to the left.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Is there any questions for Mr. Van Hyde? Sorry to put you on the spot. We do appreciate you coming and talking to us about this.
No. I'm actually here for another item and just
Oh.
happen to be available.
You just
That's
happen to be
okay.
here. Well, thank you for that too.
Yeah. So Director Vanderhyde, as far as signage goes, are you talking like a yellow diamond directional type just curb sign?
Yeah, I think it depends exactly what the developer's suggestion looks like and, you know, once it's laid out, but I think some kind of a, you know, move to the left sign, you know, is what's needed. Yep. Yellow.
So it's a cautionary.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
any other questions for Mr. Van Hyde while we have him?
I was only going to go as far as saying that, you know, in the past, and we've had some of these little complications, you know, we can continue to discuss the efficacy of the PUD amendment, which I don't have any issue with, because this is what PUDs are for, and the wetlands appeared by no control of the petitioner. But in the past, you know, we've been able to move as far as, you know, approval. However, you know, with final workouts with the appropriate departments like DPW and planning, and you know, leaving the final trigger pull, or however they want to work that out, you know, to, you know, allow the project to move forward.
Those become part of our conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it'd be reasonable if you were to have a condition subject to approval of Public Works and Planning on any change to that. A change needs to be made versus what's in the proposed PUD amendment, whether that's the quick mock-up and schematic that you all came up with, which for me I think is the ideal. That's just me. I'm not opposed to what's proposed. That's sensible. It's trying to solve the same issue in a maybe more expedient and cheaper fashion. With that gradual slope. So I understand it and I'm not opposed to it. I'll just say my preference, or what I think is the ideal, is to have a straight shot of a road through there. But I'd be comfortable, you know, having that be a condition subject to approval of Planning and Public Works.
Okay. So,
For them to hash out what is,
okay.
the best way forward.
So we need to have a motion on the floor to deliberate on. But before we do that, can you walk us through now, Mike, what conditions we need to be considering in addition to the most recent one that we've talked about?
Yes, so I'll pull up what we had in the staff report. We had 4 recommended motions. The first one was the stormwater permit should be updated. Second, the certificate of occupancies for the meadows are not issued until the western path to the boardwalk is constructed and usable. I would also add that we add a signage to that's where the public access is. Any street trees that are removed from the terrace parking shall be replaced elsewhere, and staff can work with them on those placements. There is a lack of canopy trees, so that would be number 4. The other would be to realign the drive entrance to the north, to work with staff and to have staff approve that, and to eliminate the 8 parking spaces to the north.
To eliminate,
The 8 parking spaces to the north off of that drive.
Unit, building 3 or unit B, was that?
all right, so is someone prepared
Building
to
three.
make the motion relative to this matter? And assuming it's a positive motion, to include the conditions. Mr. Gowan.
Thank you. I move to request to amend the Harbor 31 Plan Unit Development at 600 Shoreline Drive for a new residential development at 170 Viridian Drive, and to amend the waterfront access paths within Harbor 31 be recommended to the City Commission for approval with the following conditions. Condition 1, the stormwater permit is updated with the engineering department. Condition 2, the certificates of occupancy for the meadows are not issued until the western path to the boardwalk is constructed and usable with appropriate signage, which will be agreed upon, I believe, with staff. Number 3, any street trees that are removed for terrace parking shall be replaced elsewhere in the development as approved by staff. Number 4, the landscaping plan is revised to include an additional 10 canopy trees on site, including at least 2 per parking lot. And we now have a 5th condition that the realignment of the approaches on the north, that configuration will be determined after completing agreements and approvals with staff. And we have 8 parking spaces which will be removed on the north.
On the north.
Yes,
Good job.
Does that sound?
that sounds right.
Okay.
So I have a motion, is there support for that?
Support.
So I have a motion and support to recommend approval of the PUD amendment with the conditions as stated. Before I ask for a vote, I do want to ask Mr. Hendrickson if, since we've changed this, do you have any comments relative to the conditions that have been presented?
No comments, I'm comfortable with all the conditions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from the planning commission? Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, a couple different comments with regard to the impact on the GVSU parking and that proposed changes, which they'll be responsible for. Initially, I had some reservation about that, and the previous version showed that was parking was going to be remaining intact, and I was like, oh, that's nice. But what's been proposed here and what looks like they're going to be doing there is an improvement. I have a private office at the Innovation Hub. I'm there often. Right now, the way the parking lot is, being so close to the roadway, people use it as a roadway. They cut right across, which is problematic using the parking lot like a roadway. So being able to shift it over and having more of a delineation and separation from the roadway is going to be much better. And so I have no problem with that modification there. And it is actually nice to see the wetland again. It dried up, and with all the rain recently, the wetlands are wetlands again. I'd noticed because just last week I was like, "Wow, the wetlands are gone," and bam, they're back now. And with regard to public access, so it mentioned it says amend the waterfront access paths, but to be clear, we're just speaking on the center one. That other one is for a future modification. And I like that, with the ramp coming right off the center. That is a nice access point there, and we definitely need a sign. We have a sign on the approach, but we definitely need a sign right at that access point. Just throwing it out there, because I know how much of a concern or interest this public access has been amongst our community, as well as the city commission. You heard it, last time an item was before the city commission, and the thought was like, well, we're not going to get into public access over there when we're dealing with some other PUD amendment here. That was with the hotel, but there definitely was a lot of interest in securing and improving the public access sooner than later, and so I appreciate the condition here saying this must be done before any certificates of occupancy are issued. Definitely appreciate that. I wonder though, if, since there already is a public access point that's just unofficial public access, if perhaps I'm not going to ask that we add this as a condition right now, but I'm asking you to consider this before it comes to the city commission of the access point to the far west, where there's a sidewalk now that comes from the roadway to the boardwalk, which is actually how I access it, because I'm over at the Innovation Hub, so that's the closest point, and I take that sidewalk to the boardwalk when I go there. It's not technically a public access point, at least not in the PUD, but it is a de facto public access point, and it exists already, and so perhaps that's a way to identify and recognize this is public access. In the meantime, that this preferred, much better, centrally located public access is created sometime in the future. Throwing that out there for your reflection, and as well as my fellow planning commissioners and the city commissioners.
Well, what I would say about the access point we're talking about today is, to me, the outside date is when the occupancy permits are issued, but it doesn't have to wait till then.
No, it doesn't.
So it could be done sooner, and and hopefully that does occur.
It may lead to some confusion if we open it up temporarily.
Oh, I don't mean
Someone doesn't come back.
temporarily. I mean like that just being
Oh,
a
for a
third.
full one. Oh.
I wondered that before, but I was like, we don't. I was going to bring it up in the past, but I was like, it's going to just operate as a de facto public access. But I'm
I've
thinking
taken it
maybe
before.
maybe it is better to actually identify it as this is an official public access point. People use it just to avoid consternation around that point being used in the future, that it is a public sidewalk to a public boardwalk kind of thing versus just a separate element. But I just wanted to raise that, share that as another potential improvement for public access and to this development. But I'm happy to support this amendment otherwise, and would be excited to see more development, this development further progress. And with the wetlands is a focal point and an amenity there. It'll be a nice improvement and be able to provide a lot more housing for our community, which is very much needed.
Any other comment on the motion?
No, other than, I think as we complete the build-out, within the development, I think there'll be a lot more clarity with the reality, because we've been dealing with, 25 odd years of an open field. And, waiting for something, to occur. And we've had some things occur. And in the meantime, people have been using, cut across those empty fields to, access wherever they can, which has led to requests for fencing, which has led to requests for, can we get some relief here, because people are using our yards as, public space, and the public space is the sidewalk on the water. But I think as we build out and there's more reality as to what are the parameters and uses on each one of these lots, we'll be in a better position. And even as far as, parking. But I think the parking reality has been a reality from day one, because, past iterations have shown, a more compact, denser use of the entire property. And so onward and upward, and thank you, sir.
All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Mazade,
Yes.
Gawron,
Yes?
Seifert,
Yes.
De La Garza,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson, and good luck to you.
Thank you all.
Do we anticipate this be on the May 13th general session for the commission?
Yep.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
No.
It's intended to go before the city commission on May 13th.
Since I got here, closed on the land for the hotel today, and so we're looking to mobilize on site probably Monday.
Oh, wow.
So you'll start seeing some activity out there Monday or so, and we're looking at a May 19 groundbreaking event at 11 o'clock in the morning. So that invite will be sent out.
Fantastic.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Looking forward to that.
May 12th is I think I said
Tuesday, May
13th.
12th. I said the 13th. It is Tuesday, May 12th.
You'll see that from Wolverine Building Group is putting the flyer together, so, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Next item of business.
Sure. This is case 2026-11. Staff initiated request to amend section 20 of the zoning ordinance to change the required front setbacks for waterfront properties in the lakeside mixed residential context area.
Go ahead, Mike.
So the lakeside mixed residential context area has a front build-to zone of 5 to 12 feet. But the form-based code also allows waterfront properties to consider either the street side or the waterfront side as the front of the property. This means that a building may be required to be placed anywhere from 5 to 12 feet from the property line facing the water. However, since all of the property may not be above the ordinary high water mark, and also since the water levels fluctuate, it would not be possible to place a building always in this close to the water in many situations. So what staff is proposing to do is to amend the ordinance to require that waterfront properties to only build above the ordinary high water mark and not to have a traditional setback from the waterfront property line. So if you choose to have your frontage as the street, whether you are a type of housing unit or a cottage court or a cottage retail building, which is allowed, you could place that 5 to 12 feet off the front property line. If you choose to have the waterfront as your front, which many people are going to do, they want to be on the waterfront, instead of us guessing where the property line is or where it should be, and maybe that area 5 to 12 feet is underneath the ordinary high water mark, it would just make sense to allow them to place it anywhere above the ordinary high water mark.
So in that case, you're not requiring the 5 to 12 feet.
Correct.
Okay.
This is somewhat related to Mr. Gezzi's proposal.
Mhm.
We've done some zoning work over the past year, and while we were laying out his property, everything we planned was great. But now that we're in this situation of building placement with the ordinary high water mark, it's causing some problems, and probably will with other properties in the future.
Any questions for staff? All right. So this is a public hearing. If anybody would like to address this issue, please come forward, state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Nobody. So now we'll go to the viewing audience. If you'd like to address this matter to the Planning Commission, please call 231-724-6721. State your name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes to address this matter.
Oh, we got a caller. Hello, you're with the City of Muskegon.
Hey everybody, this is Leah Willett-Leroy calling regarding the item of setbacks along waterfront properties. I wanted to make the comment that we've had a lot of discussions about buffers, and essentially the ordinary high water mark may come into play if the property extends beyond that. However, we need to establish some type of buffer between the ordinary high water mark and any actual building, in my opinion. So I would agree that the ordinary high water mark should not be built past, but that there still needs to be some type of buffer between wherever the water may be, which would be a habitat zone in many situations, and any actual building. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else?
Nope.
I would move to close the public hearing.
Support.
A motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. I'll take a motion on the subject.
I move the request to amend section 20 of the zoning ordinance to change the required front setbacks for waterfront properties in the lakeside mixed residential context area be recommended to the city commission for approval.
Support.
A motion and support to recommend the ordinance amendment. Any discussion? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a sensible amendment they bring forward. In the same vein as the caller and our planet chair who just spoke, I do wonder, not necessarily tied to this specific ordinance amendment, but for us to contemplate across all waterfront properties requiring some kind of buffer, some kind of native planting, native landscaping, vegetative buffer that would be conducive to a healthier watershed. And so I think that's something that we should evaluate as a city.
It's one of the goals in our master plan, and we haven't addressed that one yet, but it's definitely near the top of the list.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
De La Garza,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes.
and Mazade.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number C.
This is case 2026-12. Staff initiated request to amend section 20 of the zoning ordinance to remove and edit several areas of the form-based code. Staff's proposing these amendments. The reasoning behind it are many. We've been using the code for over 10 years now, and staff has noticed some regulations that need to be removed or revised. Several of them, it's very challenging to actually enforce on some of these. Also, some rezonings have brought about multiple expansions across the 8 neighborhoods. We have creation of a new context area specific to the Lakeside Business District and adjacent residential areas in 2019. This was modeled after but never fully integrated into the original form-based code document. Continued rezonings and expansion that are anticipated to implement the goals of the master land use plan, eliminate redundancies to improve readability for users, and generally make the document more accessible. This is a big one. If you flip through our code, you'll notice about the first 20 or so pages really is just a story and probably not really necessary for the ordinance. Developers really appreciate when we can point out the sections that pertain to them. This should make it a lot easier and more readable. And when we find that the developers are able to read it more easily, they're able to present us with a better plan to start off. So also simplify regulations to ensure that the code regulates the things that it should be and not the things that it shouldn't be. It's an opportunity to address document formatting as the zoning ordinance transitions to MuniCode, which we hope to do shortly after this amendment. So in general, the proposed updates include updated wording to be more specific, clear, and concise where necessary. It will eliminate redundant language and references to the zoning ordinance with overlapping regulations. Connect zoning ordinance sections, references throughout. Removed unhelpful regulations that have minor effect on intended results, and remove suggested regulations, some of which will be used to draft actual regulations. So we have Jamie Pesh, our planner 3 here in the department. He's going to give us a quick presentation to go over what we have, and I'll let Jamie take it over from here.
Good evening. So there's a lot here, obviously. Our form-based code currently is about 240 pages. In order to do this, and for formatting purposes, I took all of the text out of that document. It will still be a very visual, graphic document that has a lot of diagrams and such. But it has been reduced to roughly 100 pages in text at this point. And obviously, there's still some formatting decisions to be made as we move to MuniCode. But overall, I think the cover page there summarizes the intention of what we're doing here quite well. I'm happy to review it in any more detail that you all may want. It's kind of a hard thing to present on just because there's a lot of different angles that you can come at it from. But generally speaking, that summarizes it. And the code is broken down to a lot of different sections. I don't know how in-depth you all went in reviewing some of the things that were in your packets, but if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those. If there's anything more broadly that you'd like me to elaborate on, I can do that as well. It's a little tough just because of the way the document's formatted. It's hard to make text changes and layout changes all at the same time. So it feels like you're looking at two different documents, which coincidentally is how we treat our zoning ordinance right now, where we have a form-based code and a regular ordinance, and we're hoping to get closer to a point where we can merge all of those together. Make it more accessible for the general public, people interested in investing in the city, making improvements to their own properties.
Jamie, I have a couple, a question and a comment. I guess my question is, much of the changes that you're proposing are taking things out of the ordinance, things that, and some of the things that provided a requirement. So those things that are removed that required some kind of specific requirement, does that mean that then they're either not required to do those things or they're no longer prohibited from doing those things? How does that work?
Right, yeah, so a lot of the things that were removed would be design requirements that we had that would come into play occasionally. More often than not, we find ourselves not needing to reference it. The designs for buildings that people propose or layouts, it's already covered in most cases. One of the ones that repeats itself throughout this is actually a requirement for pilasters. And those are just vertical elements of a building. When you build a building, there's going to be structure that almost mandates those anyway. And in a lot of ways, we don't think that requirements like that try to achieve what the form-based code was meant to achieve. It feels a little bit like decoration in some ways, and we wanted to loosen things up for developers to do more creative things in some cases, and that was one of the ones that was more or less cut out of the ordinance. So to your point, yeah, they would not be required anymore.
So I have one more question and a comment. One of the items is, if I remember this right, is it talks about allowing architectural elements to be within the public right of way. Is that something we've normally allowed in the past? And can you talk about that?
Yeah, it would be new with the form-based code, so about 10 years of that. That actually isn't changing, it's just being more specific in the way that it's worded. It was quite elaborate in the way that it was written out. It referenced specific things that can be allowed.
Yeah.
In one of the early sections, I believe it's section 2003, they define all of those things very succinctly in one section. So we basically change it to reference back to that section so that you don't repeat yourself over and over and over throughout the code. It was written very much with a print copy in mind, and we're moving more and more to a digital world. That's not to say that we can't provide print copies to people that need them. We can, but in looking at this from the perspective that most people are going to view them, we think making this more concise, removing some of that redundancy, is just going to make the code more accessible.
Okay. And my question is, relative to what I believe is a requirement to have sidewalks and developments on both sides of the road. I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know that, in my opinion, I'm not sure that's all necessary and all developments. Can you speak to that?
Yep. So that section specifically applies to subdivision and access. It differs from planned unit developments. So subdivision, it differs from a planned unit development.
Okay.
Subdivision requirements are actually their own chapter in the City Code of Ordinances. These, where they overlap, this will take precedent. Where they don't, that section of the that chapter of the ordinance will. In this case, we're talking about developments that are replatting larger plots of land. Planned unit developments operate under their own zoning requirements, so to speak. So it wouldn't be automatically applied to PUD. I think we would prefer to see it in a lot of cases, especially in areas that are affected by the form-based code, which tend to be downtown centric. But it wouldn't be something that is mandated for every planned unit development. And typically we see that more than we see subdivisions, just because we're a built-out city.
When do we have a replat? I mean,
It's very rare. I think maybe the last one that I can think of is the Bluffton Bay Estates. I think that was technically a subdivision and not a.
Time ago.
Yeah.
but it's a site condo.
even that might also be a plan unit development. So it's incredibly rare, and it would be more common.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
just so I understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yep. And that's the same thing with that same section about subdivision. There was a reference to the public realm standards, which is a huge section that we're removing in anticipation of having street design standards at some point that will effectively replace that. Again, right now, we handle it with Public Works, and it's sort of a case by case with the plan unit development. But because we don't see many subdivisions being built, it's very rare that we'd ever have to reference that.
Okay, I'm done. Any other?
Just to piggyback on
Mr.
that,
Mayor.
so, because I did have a question about the public realm standards being removed entirely. So is my understanding that that only comes into play when you're doing new subdivision or new plats, not,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it helps, it's guidance, so I believe that we looked at it very generally, more as a recommendation, for things like Adelaide Point, early on in that project's development. The interesting part of it is that the word recommendation shows up like 44 times in this document, and all of them are in that specific section for public realms. So it's never been a requirement. It's always been recommendations in that section, which goes well beyond what zoning would typically look at because it encroaches into the public right-of-way, and that is usually the realm of the Public Works Department.
okay.
Okay.
But we'll have additional design standards forthcoming that will be incorporated.
It's been a long process, but we're still working on it.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the red line version. This is so helpful. Being able to go through it and see, changes much more clearly. Thank you.
I didn't sleep this past week because
I thought you may have been staying up
I'll
and
put
reading
you to
those.
sleep.
I was convalescing, so I had time.
Any other questions for Jamie or comments? Okay. And so this is a public hearing, then,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no.
Did you-
No, I was going to make the motion, but
No,
this is a public hearing.
it
Yeah.
is so it is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to address this matter besides Jamie, please raise your hand and come forward. State your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Nobody? So now we'll go to the viewing audience. If there's anyone watching us on television and you'd like to comment on this matter, please call 231-724-6721 and give us your comments in 3 minutes. We're good? I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
I have motion and support to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now I'll take a motion on the subject matter.
I move the request to amend section 20 of the zoning ordinance to edit several areas of form-based code be recommended to the city commission for approval as presented.
Support.
I have motion and support to recommend approval to the city commission of this amendment. Any discussion on the matter? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mazade,
Yes.
Gowron,
Yes?
Seifert,
Yes.
De La Garza,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. So that's the end of the public hearings, Mr. Mayor.
Well, on the next item, I was just wondering if you don't mind, Mr. Chair and staff, if we. What's that?
I was going to ask if we could move it up so Mr. Vanderhyde could go before we do the goal setting.
Well, I was going to say, let's defer the goal setting to the next meeting.
That's fine
Because
with
I
me.
know our planning chair is very interested in that.
Yeah.
She
I
wasn't able
think-
to be here, and so we're just asking if we can defer that to the next
What do you
meeting.
mean she wasn't here?
I know, right?
Sorry, waiting to call.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
thought it was
think
her
that-
voice.
I think that's a good idea. So, we don't need to take any action. We'll just defer that to the next meeting. So then we'll go to
Capital
the,
improvement plan.
capital improvement plan. Is that what
Yes.
Mr. Van Heid's here for?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's actually a requirement through the Planning Enabling Act, and one of our requirements to maintain our redevelopment ready community status is to have the Planning Commission review our capital improvements plan. It's a 6-year plan, and to make a recommendation to the City Commission. So we have Mr. Vanderhyde here to give us a run through. It's quite an extensive plan, but I'm sure he can do a good job highlighting the important parts that we'll want to focus on.
Mr. Van Heide.
Good evening. It is quite an extensive plan, and we would be here for most of the evening if I were to go through it line by line. So what I will do is simply describe the format of the plan and indicate how you might view the plan with regard to one individual project. And if anyone has any questions about that format or any specific project, I will do my best to answer them. Although not every single project on here relates to public works, the vast majority of them. So we have each project shows as one line within the spreadsheet. The project title is the leftmost. Project fix kind of describes what the intent to do is. We have a phase column, which if it's applicable, notes whether that specific line item is related to the design of the project or the construction of the project. Some of the projects are large enough that the design of it is an expense large enough that it needs to appear on our capital sheet. We have the lead fund, which attempts to describe which fund of the city is paying for the majority of the project. It doesn't mean it's paying for all of it. There could be, particularly with linear infrastructure or street projects, there could be water and sewer and road involved, and in fact, most of those projects have at least two, if not three. We have the GL number is simply a description internally of how we track that project in our accounting system. So in BS&A, the accounting system, we tie invoices and budgets to those numbers so that we can track them over time. We then have a grants and aid column, so that is if we are anticipating or have already been awarded some form of grant for the project, whether specifically a grant or whether principal forgiveness, which is a term often associated with our drinking water and clean water state revolving fund projects, water and sewer projects that you take advantage of the state's bond program for. Not exactly familiar with the blank column there. I think that might just be left over from something else. Well, I think at one point that was our bond amount, SRF projects. Looks like that got goofed at some point, but the GF or general fund, that describes dollars that the city takes in from tax, generally from property tax, income tax, and state and other federal sources. Basically the city's, day-to-day fund, so to speak. And then all of the other funds up there are a combination of enterprise and special revenue type funds. Major and local street, we often operate them as a single fund because we have a transportation asset management plan on file with the state, which allows us to move money from one to the other with very little restriction. The arena fund obviously is for the Trinity Arena. PI, public improvement, is a fund that the city holds that funds a various number of capital items, things like fire trucks. It's been used for housing purposes recently. If anyone has any questions about the specific projects in that fund, we can talk through those. State grants is a fund that we use for state funds that flow to and through the city. For example, the state ARPA, the federal ARPA, ARP, American Rescue Plan Act, that was the name of the act for COVID funds. Those funds have been sitting in for Fund 482, state grants, and they get moved as they get spent. So that's the main purpose lately of that fund. Sewer and water are relatively clear cut. Those are the funds that hold the funds and spend the funds related to our utilities. Marina, the marina has its own fund. Launch ramps are also included in there. Take in income for slips and launch ramp fees and so forth. And the last two, PSB, which stands for Public Service Building, and Equipment, are funds that we use to charge rent, is the term that we use, but effectively what we're doing is allowing other funds and other parts of the city's accounting system to pay for those pieces of equipment. So the Public Service Building Fund holds the public service building, and of course within that building, the Highway Department, which is funded by the road funds, the Water Department and Sewer Department, which are funded by those funds, sit within that building, and so those funds pay rent to the Public Service Building Fund, so that the public service building as a building has a way to sustain itself, pay for maintenance, pay for employees who serve all the departments, things like that. And the equipment fund is pretty much the same. So that equipment is owned by the equipment fund, and as each individual department, police, water, sewer, highway, uses that equipment, they pay into the equipment fund to fund its future replacement. Total cost is just all of those lines put together, and then we have comments line just for miscellaneous notes and things in order to keep ourselves in check. The fund, the plan overall is split in by year. So I don't recall exactly how many years are currently planned. The target is always 6. And as you move down through the plan, you'll notice the year breaks as you go. Each year, the city staff sit down with the manager's office and we make tough decisions about which projects make the cut and projects that don't typically move into a future year. And we talk about them next year, hoping that we'll have funds to complete them at that time. Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Vanderhyde? I have a couple. So, and maybe I missed it, Mr. Vanderhyde. The term of this plan, it's a 6-year plan, and it moves, right? Okay. So,
Yes.
what is this plan? What years is this covering? What's 6 years?
So I'm not sure, we probably have
I mean,
the
I know
current-
there's some dates in here, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to.
We probably have the current year included as well, so I believe, though, what you all are approving is the 26, 27, and forward years. And the reason, I guess I should say, that it's before you, maybe Mike covered this, I don't recall, is the redevelopment ready community certification requires this body.
I think it's impressive to see all the different projects that the city is embarking upon, either have already completed or in the middle of or planned for the future. I mean, it's very impressive and it's very very aggressive. I think one specific project, I guess, I saw in here, and I'm not sure it's necessarily what I'm thinking of, but in the document it talks about some parking improvements at beach parking improvements. I think it mentions. I know the city had a plan for some parking improvements near what is now the south bathhouse, and then they were. That was not done. It was not constructed, and I know there's some concerns about that plan, but it never came back. And what's the status of that? Or maybe it's not coming back.
It is.
It is coming
Also
back.
been adopted.
We were fortunate to find funds within the ARPA dollars that the city commission devoted to parks capital improvements. So a portion of the plan is actually out for bid right now.
Oh.
And next week, Thursday, we'll receive bids on the project. Portions that are included are the boardwalk, for lack of a better term, although it's a concrete path, between the two bathhouses now. So from the south bathhouse to the north, or the old, if you prefer. And that is 16 feet wide, and it will be a little bit closer to the lake than the current one.
Is that on the beach side of the parking?
It is, because the parking lot itself is getting a little larger. So it's currently you park only on the, we'll call it the right side, if you're going the correct direction through that bumpy section, right? Talking about, when we're done, you'll be able to park in both directions. So that parking lot is
And
a
I
little bit
think
further
that
out
was
and
what
expanding.
the last plan was, something similar to that, right?
Something similar, but a different configuration. So that previous version had the parking lot encroaching on the beach itself. This is having the parking lot go up to the sidewalk, maintaining a tree line so the existing trees and more trees can be planted, and then the boardwalk's going on the other
the other
side
side. Oh, wow.
of the trees. So you
Oh,
have
wow.
some trees providing shade for both the boardwalk and the parking lot.
Nice.
And we're getting a bit 80 some parking spots.
Yeah,
out of it
80,
altogether. I want to say 88, but it could be.
I think
was
that,
a-
I think
that was
that
about the-
portion might be,
That
in
was
the-
about the number before, somewhere near there.
yeah, I think that portion might include the, different layout of the ovals lot. So I think because we're unable funding wise to complete the ovals realignment, I think the parallel portion is 60 something spaces.
That
It is
parking lot
80?
that you're talking about,
At
that's,
least my count of it. Was
Oh, you
80. I might have
counted all
miscounted,
spaces? Okay,
but
well, I
like,
won't
it was
dispute
80
that.
some, and I thought it was 87, 80, but I'm not certain.
Sure.
But it was not including the ovals reconfiguration because that was a different piece that we were wanting to
Mm-hmm.
reconfigure the ovals to squeeze out more parking and do the Indiana Avenue and all that. But yeah, it was 80
so,
something.
so that parking lot, and I don't want to take up too much time on this issue, but that parking lot is, what I remember, it was going to be self-contained, and some kind of barrier between that parking lot and Beach Street. Is that
Yes.
still the case?
Yes. Yep, it'll operate much like it does today, where you'll have the choice, as you come past the deck and the north bathhouse and turn back to Beach Street, you'll have the opportunity to enter that parking area, and it'll be one way down until you enter into that parking area by
What
the
will be
South
the
Beach House.
barrier between the lot and,
It'll look very similar to what is there today. The plastic delineators, which some people like them, some people hate them, but when we hit them with plows, they don't break the plows, and they're easy to replace.
Right.
Long-term, perhaps we'll be able to look at something a little bit more robust, but that's the plan for now.
thank you for spending time on that.
There's one other feature about that project is the walkway going down to the beach from the main concession. That's the accessible one that gets put in and out every year. This plan does have a permanent concrete path going down there with the platform.
Nice.
Not as far as the accessible pathway now because it has to stay above the ordinary high water mark, but there'll be a permanent
Oh, that'd be great.
pathway going down there.
Hey, for what it's worth, I don't like the stanchions, but
That's fair.
my 2 cents. All right, I'm sorry to dominate the issue, but I had a couple questions. Anybody else? Okay, this isn't a public hearing, right? So,
Not a comment or not a question per se, but thank you for presenting and speaking on this, and including all the different plans because this goes back to I think fiscal year 20, it was 2019, 2020 up to now. But I didn't see the one for 26, 27. So, are we looking to adopt 26, 27, or are we that's forthcoming, or we're looking at adopting the 25
Well, I
to
think
26?
the 26-27 isn't finalized yet because we haven't done the budget.
Okay, so that's
Correct. This-
forthcoming.
this
So
is-
we're not actually need to adopt
Yeah.
anything today then.
so
I think it's you guys have to review that we have one.
So just review the existing one of 25 to 26 and.
It's supposed to be 6 years forward.
Which we do have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is?
So maybe we should just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
doesn't
it's just
appear to have the
rolling,
right
like,
numbers
isn't
on
it?
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
6-year
All right.
timeline and it just
Well,
rolls
because-
every year. You
well, we got-
update it. It's a 6 year every year.
Yeah,
but
you gotta-
We're
Yeah.
kind of doing kind of retroactive, from 20 to the present.
But as I understand, we don't
2021.
approve it.
okay.
This is 25.
We're accepting that there is a plan, right? I mean,
We're supposed to make a recommendation to the city commission.
oh,
Right.
Technically.
And when you go further into the requirements, even it comes to
Says that we're supposed to create
capital expenditures and building, that's supposed to come to us first
So that's
for
the
efficacy, and does this make sense, and so on and so forth.
so that's the hiccup we're trying to resolve because these all have come to the commission and been approved. It's just
Yeah.
inadvertently a step got missed with the planning commission.
And most commissions in the state have missed this.
have missed. Okay.
But people are trying to catch up.
We do it occasionally, usually when the RRC reminds us, so we're trying to get better at just doing this.
So we don't want to lose that.
Yeah. So I
Be able
can.
to secure that early amongst Michigan
Manager?
communities.
So I'm looking at the current plan, and it goes through 2032. And obviously the further you get out, the plan gets shorter and shorter and shorter because the manager hasn't said kick that down, kick that down, kick that down.
right.
That's our.
But we don't have that.
Is that the
Right.
one that's in draft form for 26, 27? Or is that
Correct. Yeah.
inclusive of
So
25, 26?
yeah.
Okay.
So 26, 27 is there, but we haven't finished the capital part of the budget yet, so we don't know what gets kicked onto 27, 28, and then how everything rolls down from there. So we're going through the process, but
Thank you for catching that because I did not know that this that was a requirement, that this comes to the planning commission for a formal review before it comes to the city commission.
Yeah, that's part of our enabling act.
So what do you want us to do? We can approve
We'll see if
this and,
there's a motion in there, but it should just be a simple motion to recommend it.
so we recommend what we have, but we, at some point, we're gonna have the new plan.
I think we should get it on the books.
Yeah, I do too. So does somebody want to make a motion to recommend approval of this plan to the city commission?
Okay.
Mr. Garland?
I recommend to adopt and approve the capital improvement plan as presented and recommend adoption and approval by the city commission.
Support.
A motion and support to recommend approval of the capital improvement plan to the city commission. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Mazade,
Yes.
Bowron,
Yes.
Seifert,
Yes.
De La Garza,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion pass. All right. So corridor improvement checklist?
Yeah, so I didn't really want to present on this. I've just kind of been teasing it for the past couple months, so I wanted to get it in everybody's hands and just give a quick overview. We can go over this in more detail at our next meeting. Let's give you time to review it.
Okay.
What we're trying to do here is, we're continuously going to different business corridors to do corridor improvement plans. But what we're finding is, one, they take a while to create, and two, they're kind of all saying the same things. There are things that every business corridor needs to strengthen itself. A lot of times we're recommending, road diets, on-street parking, street amenities, lighting, benches, things like that. This is a way that staff can work with business associations to establish where they are at. Instead of waiting 5 to 10 years to hit a business corridor, we can hit several of these a year and see where they're at and see what they want to do, what they're missing, and really what we would like to do is strengthen the participation in business associations. Get these business associations started. We can help them. We have documents to share, and then eventually, if they have a need to make major improvements, is to encourage the creation of corridor improvement authorities or business improvement districts, which will create funding revenue to actually go through with some of these improvements.
Okay, good.
We'll go over that more next month.
Okay, all right, so we'll save any comments. Okay. Okay, and then, we're in new business, sorry. Any other business? The attorney memo, what are we doing with that?
We are asking to move that.
Okay.
to the next meeting.
We're not doing anything with that, okay. Okay, so any other business?
No.
All right, one comment I have, Mike, and maybe it comes with any other business, the infill housing plan that you sent out to us, I thought that was well done. I really like that. The presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was really helpful for us as things happen.
Yeah.
But then we don't really think
Exactly.
about what's happened over the time, so
Yeah.
then we get to see what's all been accomplished, so.
Yeah, we'll try to do more things
That
like
was,
that.
that was really helpful, yeah.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Any public comment? Anybody in the audience like to?
Just one thing. Mr. Vanderhyde, I just want to extol your staff for the great work since the Christmas holidays on the fissure in the water main. The only issue I had was I did ask that they let the cement cure and the blockages and the cone stamp until the end of August, but I really couldn't make that case. But no, the crews have been just remarkably forthcoming. The interaction with the public is great, so you're all to be commended for that stretch. And I know this is selfish, but I was kind of hoping for that catastrophic issue to occur on Palmer, so we could finally get it done. But being the reality. But overall, just thank you so much to your department and your great staff.
Right. So if there is any other public comment here, we'll go to the viewing audience. If you'd like to address the planning commission and public comment, please call 231-724-6721 and make your comments. No, we're good? All right. If there aren't any public comments, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.